Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 72 of ZK Live. Tonight we have Jason Paris, the architect of Paris Painting in Minnesota. He is also been called the Elon Musk of the painting world. Very knowledgeable, very smart guy. Also happens to be absolutely hilarious. We're going to bring him on right now and into it. How are you, Jason Paris?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you? Glad to be on the show.
I'm really happy to have you. Unfortunately, it's just our heads, so we don't get to see
that.
Or whatever. I'm sure you were curious.
Yes.
For people who don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
Okay. My name is Jason. I'm a human male living in America. What do? I don't know. I do lots of things. I own a painting company called Paris Painting that does residential repaints in Minnesota. And we've grown fast, and so people are interested by that. I also have a family of 6. So I have a beautiful wife coming up on our 10-year anniversary this fall. And they have 4 lovely kids. We just wrapped up dinner, and they might be rambunctious. I locked the door to our bedroom to find a safe haven. We'll see how long that lasts. Should last long. We're going to put a show on for them, which is their drug of choice. I'm the chair of the Painting Contractors Association, so I help lead and guide the board in strategic decisions there, and I'm the primary interface between strategy and then operations with the office. I'm training for an Ironman, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's my latest kick. I usually pick something once every 2 quarters and just obsess about it, and that's my thing right now. Previous iterations were keyboards, different Excel macros, and stuff like that.
That's awesome. How did you get into the painting industry?
I started painting in college, like a lot of people who are in it now, and so I went to https://www.google.com, and I typed in just summer college job. They popped up. They were probably paying for the ads that day, and that's how I got into it, man. Just a student painting company in college.
And you got hired on as the painter for the student painting company.
That's right. Just slinging a paintbrush, getting sunburnt, getting bit by mosquitoes, oil primer on my skin, never washes off, all that good stuff.
Wow. That's I did not know that. I would have just came in as a college pro, like owner.
Right.
Up at the top.
Yeah, franchise manager. No, just a humble painter, just a paintbrush and a dream. That's my MO.
I just had a lip surgery, so if you could keep the comedy, hurts to laugh.
Well, you're in the minority. My comedy is geared towards like 4% of people.
I know.
So my preference is that 96% of people never get it. They just are very confused and frustrated with me. And you're in that minority of people that just keep me going because you, unfortunately, encourage me to keep the dry humor coming.
The narrow. Just like any good business, your target market, you service perfectly. And every outside, maybe not so much.
Right. There's an old country song that says like, what does it say? Some girl, like, I don't know if I forget it, but he also does like, some girls don't like guys but like me. Yeah, but some girls do. Right.
Yep.
And that's a good probably business truthism too. Is like, yeah, not every client's going to like you, but some clients are. And they're really going to like you.
Yeah. Why do your clients like your company?
I think we're easy to work with. Our scheduling is very good. And then we provide a professional service. And so, to be honest, the bar in residential repaint is not a high one to jump over. And we check the box in a lot of ways.
Easy to work with. I don't know how many paint contractors, when I talk to them about like what makes you special, right. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say, well, we're easy to work with.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you've had such success.
Usually it's like we specialize in quality, or we specialize in some like That's fine. But yeah, I think we are, we're obviously a volume-based business. We have scaled in an industry that typically doesn't scale, which is residential repaint. And we're just, you have to be easy to work with. There can't be a lot of pinch points if you're going to have a scaling model.
Yeah. I think that's what obviously stands out about your company is how you've been able to scale it. Also the fact that you are like, aren't you just the chairman of the board and you don't like work in the painting company anymore? Is that
Right.
correct?
So yeah, so we just call it from day one, wanted to work my way out. Probably 3 years ago, stopped doing bids, and then we had a project manager, but I was still doing all the coordination. Um, Eventually, last year, stopped doing any site visits or any bids. Actually, last 2 years. And then Q2 last year, I stepped out of coordination. So went through the standard process, develop the base, perfect the system, develop a successor, and then move on to the next one. So I did that. We have a president that runs Paris Painting. He's awesome. And then I put all my efforts towards our construction company, which is Haven Builders.
So just we have to start with the bragging part so everybody knows how legit you are.
Okay, sounds good.
But I think it's important that people understand sort of the reality of what you built. Roughly volume and percent what was your net profit and volume last year, if you will say?
Okay, sure. The painting division produced 5.2 last year. Building did 2.7. And then we have a paperboy company or like a marketing company that did 0.8. I know the painting company was 17% net, and everybody's going to slice it differently. I believe with us that's pre-tax, so people can do their own equations on the outside of that. But that's basically your profit after COGS and then overhead. Haven didn't make much money last year. That was a startup, and so we scaled from like 500K to 2.5 million, or 2.7 million. So that was a ride for sure. And then I don't know the numbers for Paperboy. I just know it's our most lucrative arm, but it's not a very high volume.
Yeah. So to put that in perspective, you made about $750,000 in profit in the painting company after you paid everyone involved.
Right. Yep. And then you pay taxes, and then you get to work with your people that you pay a lot of money on how to put that money to good use and not give it away.
Yeah. So you run a painting business. When you say you run a painting business, you actually run a painting business.
Right. So maybe this is a good clarification. This is not my thing I came up with, but I believe it's maybe Rich Dad Poor Dad that has the 4 quadrants of, you start out as an employee where you trade your time for money, and then you become like a, I don't know what the term is. I think it's self-employed. You become self-employed where you have your efforts and your time for money. Business owners will typically trade other people's time and energy for money. A lot of times they're running the business as well. And then you have the last quadrant, which is a shareholder. When you're a shareholder, your equity is producing profit for you, regardless of how much effort or time you put into that asset. And so that's where you look at your painting business and say, does my equity have inherent value, regardless of, do I have to put in time and effort for that equity to hold value? Usually that's the case. Paris Painting has been a mature model. I have great people that I get to work with. We have a fantastic team, so it's not just me, obviously. But we've been able to move to that final stage of the quadrant.
So you get to sit on a beach while your company literally makes you money.
I could, right? I could retire and sit on a beach if I wanted to. Have a lot more purpose in my life than that. And so my direction has been put towards Haven Builders, paperboard marketing. We're acquiring a spray foam and waterproofing company. I love volunteering with the Painting Contractors Association. That's a big passion of mine. And having 4 kids is no walk on the beach. That's not, you don't get to relax on the beach with 4 kids.
Yeah.
So this is pretty braggy. This is a little uncomfortable. I'm a very humble painter.
I know.
But I know you got to do it.
I think that people need to understand. I mean, if I didn't know you, I probably would not know that that's a thing that could be possible, honestly. Yeah. And I think like the 4-minute mile, once people understand that it is possible, it's something that you might actually try to do.
That's great. That's a great comment. I think it's more common maybe in industrial painting. That's probably the most professionalized segment. And then maybe a little bit of commercial painting, but you still aren't seeing it as much. Residential repaint, it's pretty rare. I think that's fair to call out. I like the 4 minute mile analogy too, because what is it that's holding individuals back, that's holding the residential repaint back from professionalizing fully? I think it's just seeing what is possible. Then you inspire people, and then people stop putting those self-imposed barriers on themselves. And we've seen it time after time. You go to a painting conference, whatever it may be. I think we met at the PCA, and it's just you meet people, you see what they're doing, you get inspired, and you take off those self-imposed limits that you have on yourself, and suddenly, you got high schoolers running 4 minute miles.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I 3 or 4 years ago, I was on Nick May's podcast, and I said, I don't want to have like any employees. I want to have a really high hourly rate, and I want to be 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that was like, right. And I've been able to my focus and change my goals because I have seen that there are other things that are possible. Like you have inspired me. Like it's possible to build a company.
Yeah.
And like that's like a legit company that you could own a percentage in. It would be worth something, and you could potentially spend no time on that, and it could bear fruit.
Right. And you could sell it. I would not recommend selling a trades-based company if you're looking for cash-on-cash investment. I have not found something better, especially at that volume. But in theory, you could sell a company if it has inherent equity. Most of the time, it's really hard to sell because what are you buying? It's usually the business owner, operator that's the linchpin of the whole thing. And that's not really an asset that you're building. It's a great self-employment gig. That's a great thing. But you're not getting you're not getting value from your equity, irregardless of your time and efforts.
Yeah. That's a very important piece. And I think that I know personally, and I've spoken to a lot of people, I think another like self-limiting thing is like, all right, so there's some things like, okay, let's just say sanding a door. Mm-hmm. I can delegate sanding a door. I can write a SOP, and I can like put somebody in place to sand a door. But then over here, let me tell you, there's some things nobody else could do.
We've all been there, man.
Right?
I know I've been there. I thought I was just the estimating god, and I thought I was the coordination god. And what I found over time is that people who specialize in these things, devote their life to it, are way better than I am. Outside of that, so I eventually got to that point. You can at least start with saying a team of people following a process will outperform a high-performing individual any day of the week. So I may think I'm the best estimator there can be, but if I have a team of 3 estimators out there, they're going to sell me they're going to blow me out of the water, right? Same thing with coordinating. I played a lot of video games growing up, pretty nimble with the keyboard, good at visualizing multiple reference points and playing the whole puzzle game pretty quickly. But you get a team of 3-4 people following a process, they're going to do it way better than I could and a way higher volume than I could. So and then eventually you get to the point where you realize that individuals actually are better than you at that specific thing. But yeah, we've all been there, man. It's a mental game. I think so much of business development are these mental things that you get to go through. We both have a good friend of ours, Nick Slavic, who's a great guy, and it's been really fun to watch him go through those mental transformations. I met him 3 years ago, and you could just see all the limits that he put on his ego and his mind and how he thought things could operate, and lots of head trash. And whether it's Nick Slavic, whether it's someone locally, whether it's someone on the other side of the country, watching people get rid of their head trash and kind of realizing their potential, as you might say, that's super fun to watch.
Yeah, that's part of why we do this show. Is
yeah.
I'm trying to do the show I would have loved to consume when I was first starting, because I'm lucky enough to get to know you a little bit at a PCA or get to talk to Nick Slavic and to be able to put this stuff out there for people to consume and maybe like show people the 4-minute mile is possible. And, you can aspire to more than what you're aspiring to. That's probably true for most of us. I know it's true for me.
Yeah, I think unrealized potential is, sometimes the saddest thing out there. Realizing your potential is one of the most rewarding things out there. And I think this is a great what you're doing, this podcast, because it seems like it's just a messaging thing. Specifically in residential repaint, there aren't a lot of figures that you would look up to, role models, right? Most residential repaint guys in the paint store are not people you'd aspire to be in life, just calling a spade a spade. But you look at a ZK, you look at the guests that you've had onto this show, those are people where you'd be like, yeah, that's a pretty, I would like to be like that person, right? And I see them doing residential repaint. That's one element of their life I might want to mimic. But in general, I'd like to be like that person, and they happen to be in the repaint trade. And I think the more you can get that image out there, that messaging out there, that's a good thing. That's good for the industry. That's good for people's self-confidence that are in the industry too.
Yeah, I think we need to, again, very low bar, low hurdles to jump over. And if we can just raise that hurdle a little bit, that bar up a little bit, and make a few more people be proud to be painters, I think that's good for everybody.
Yeah, it'll raise over time, right? The tide rises. It doesn't have to, but if you put in the effort, it will raise over time. And I think what you're doing is influential. You know, that's what makes me excited to volunteer at different places, is I feel like it will have an impact, and whatever that may be.
Yeah, totally. So I think that the first thing I want to sort of dig into, that's something you glossed over so quickly because it's second nature to you. But you said, I forget the term you used, but you essentially like hired yourself out of positions,
Right?
trained people. You built systems and processes to put somebody else in that place. What was the term that how'd you?
I think the phrase I used actually comes from our president, Alex, who is by far the most productive human I've ever met in my life. And I get the pleasure of seeing him work day in and day out. Super motivating guy. He's a big marathon person. He's finally going to break 3 hours this year after an injury previously that held him back. He's who motivated me to do my first marathon. Has got me into Ironmans. Awesome guy. So I'll give him the credit. But it's build the base, perfect the system, develop a successor, move on to the next one. So like the 4 stages of flight. This has been, I mean, you could cut this a million different ways about how you professionalize a company and all those things. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's what we did in Paris. Paris is a mature model, and we've developed successors in every single role there, and we can move on to the next one. It's still our best performing business unit. So we have high growth plans. You know, last year we did 5.2. This year we're planning to clip a little over 7. Year after that, the goal is 10, and then we're going to reevaluate what we want to do. But it's not like a big mystery box of how you develop it at this point. It's more just pouring inputs, getting outputs. There are other business units like Haven Builders right now that we are perfecting the process and developing successors. That is a company I have equity in that does not, if I stop putting efforts into it, I'm not going to be cashing checks on the beach from my Haven equity. That requires a lot of effort to keep it going. Same thing with the spray foam and waterproofing company we're about to acquire. That's going to require intensity, right? Businesses don't scale and professionalize on their own. They actually move towards entropy, I think the term is, right? They move towards chaos. That's what they want. So this is maybe just getting into a rant of mine, but your business wants to be chaotic. That's what it's like. Human flesh, evil nature wants. You are like the business owner, and you need to guide your business towards divinity of being professionalized. So chew on that one for a little bit. Maybe I might have got your lips going to split open, unfortunately, and that's just the reality of this. But
I've never heard divinity that closely related to business before.
Yeah, it probably doesn't work, but
that's true.
People let me get away with a lot of weird things because who knows why.
Well, I heard you say why on a live you did with Nick Slavic not too long ago.
What did I say?
You have the reputation for being the crazy guy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah. I've thought
crazy.
about that a lot because just the value of that, right? So if you get known as the fun uncle who wears like clown shoes, you're like, oh yeah, that's crazy Uncle Steve. He's just doing his thing, right? He's just that guy. But then he gets to do those things that you might not get away with. And so if you can kind of be this eccentric personality, you can play that role at the right time, and it's kind of like a little cheat code of life.
I love it. So let's talk about those 4 stages a little bit, because I know selfishly I want to know, I want to hear this. I want to be able to go back
Yeah.
and listen to the recording, but you said build a base.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that exactly?
Man, that's like that's a startup. That's the pain, right? And there's other phrases of business stages. I would marry that into the startup, as it's called. And you got to get in, figure out what works, try things, iterate quickly, deal with the pain, sunk cost mindset. Things aren't supposed to work, and you have to make them work, right? That's build the base. You start to get things in place too. Like when you try something, doesn't work. Try something, kind of works. You have to iterate it. All right, now you have somewhat of a process, somewhat of a concept for that element of your company. Right? This might be, how do I estimate? I don't know. Like you lose on a few jobs, and then you win, and you start to learn about job costing, and then you finally get things dialed in. But you're missing on some, but you're winning on others. Over time, you iterate. Right? Could be on how you communicate with your clients, how you manage your crews. It's probably those 3 like elements of a company where you have sales and marketing, you have the coordination in between, you have production, you have finance. You just got to build the base, and those are the people that we meet at these conventions, and that's why I miss these regional events and these big national events, is because those are like the people, right? Those are the cowboys who are out there, like in the wild west of residential repaint, just figuring out making it work. Next stage would be called, I think in each area I've heard this described, to be high growth, right? So now you need to perfect the process, right? So we call it perfecting the process. Other ways to think about this would be high growth. Now you have to tweak it, dial it in, so it really is inputs and outputs, right? You need a playbook, a process, competency models, all those things built out. And you need those in place before you can develop a successor. Can't really develop a successor before the playbook's out there, the competency models are out there. Can't do those 2 things before you develop the base. Once you've developed your successor, now you're ready to move on to the next one. Someone has to be the quarterback to develop and professionalize that company. Usually it's someone with equity, and you can't do that. For me, I don't know how people do that, multiple entities at once, outside of having great partnerships with other people and multiple quarterbacks in each entity.
So when you talk about this, are you talking about it wholly, or are you saying, like, I thought originally it was like, so you start with production and you build a base, then you get production systematized, then you hire a successor or a painter to fill that production slot, and then you go to sales. But are you talking more broadly, or do you see it as granular as like by division of within the company?
So if you're the primary integrator and you're professionalizing the company, however you want to do it, man, it's kind of what is your pain tolerance, and what's your threshold for pain, right? What's your horizon timeline? What are you willing to sacrifice and deal with to hit that clip? You can take it, functional unit by functional unit, as you kind of laid out, and say, all right, I'm going to do everything in my chaos mode, but we're really going to hone in estimating. And now once estimating is honed in, I'm going to perfect that process. Everything else is still operating chaos in this company. And then we're going to develop a successor that can follow the process and follow the comp models, has a playbook. And now I'm going to put my efforts that are working on the business towards another functional unit. Now, arguably, you should have more time because you're not doing in that function. Right? You're still doing in all the other ones because you don't have the time to work on those functional units. That's one way to do it. Another way is just chaos mode. There's a feedback loop in everyone. So for painting, we typically find out that, well, actually, whatever business unit it is, doesn't matter. Sales and production have feedback loops, and the speed of that feedback loop determines how quickly we can professionalize that. So in Paris painting, we got our sales processes and our estimating guides and REFs really, really dialed in, and we had a really quick feedback loop from production. So our production manager was communicating with our sales manager on a weekly basis with a summary. Here's things I'm seeing in the field that I'd like you to crispen up on the sales process. Same thing with Haven Builders. When we can get a really quick feedback loop where it's, all right, we're doing a budget forecast as the job exits the retainer stage, is about to go into production. And here's the things that we're seeing. The ability to do that quickly, as opposed to 2 months down the road when it's finally completed and you're doing a post-op. That's the difference between having profitable, professional scaling jobs in quarters as opposed to years. What is the speed of your feedback loop determines how quickly you can iterate any element of the business.
We're gonna chop that up into a little clip, and we're gonna take that quote and put it someplace.
Good.
We did have that.
No, I think that's something I thought about because we work primarily with Sherwin-Williams, and we love Hirschfield's, which is our local vendor as well. But I just think back, Sherwin-Williams, they'll fly someone in, they'll come visit your shop, and they'll ask you a question. What do you think is limiting your growth? And sometimes I have this bad habit of thinking about things like seriously. So typically, sometimes I just don't give the platitude answer. We just gotta 10x. We just gotta, circle back and synergize. And I would love to say that, but sometimes I have this bad habit where I really think I'm like, gosh, what would limit our ability? I think it's the feedback cycle, like how quickly we can have a feedback cycle to iterate. What is the speed of our iterations? That's what's holding us back.
Sure would.
All right. So temp flex can actually go down to 35 degrees like every other paint, but I'm still going to tell you about it. And then sometimes you throw people off by thinking about things seriously, trying to break it down to it's like giving them a real answer. That is anyways, I'm going on a big tangent. Sorry to all your listeners.
Did that happen in real life? Is that why you say that?
What was that?
Did that happen?
Yes. Yeah. So a guy because they come in, I'm like, what is limiting our growth? And it was that answer. And I've been thinking about that for a while of just, right now, yeah. And then you think long term, like right now in our holdings, the limiting factor in the next probably 2 to 5 years is going to be how well can we develop leaders. That's going to be our limiting factor, right? Back then, it was just Paris painting, and I was trying to figure out which spreadsheet worked best to manage my production and finances and communicate with everything and keep it organized, and how to develop an estimating guide and all these different things. And it was really, when I got down to it, was how quickly could I iterate was limited by the speed of a feedback loop. And that was when I got down to it. We were experiencing really high growth. I mean, we never had a low growth year, but they still ask the same question every time they visit you because it's in their playbook. And then you have to think about what the answer is.
Yeah, I have the same problem where sometimes I struggle to give platitudes ever.
Right. Sometimes you just do it too. I mean, I'd say I don't. I actually won't go down that road. I was gonna say something, but it might offend people, so I'm not gonna do it.
We don't want to offend people here. This is a public forum.
Please don't cancel me. I don't want to be canceled.
Okay, so can you break down a little bit of what that process looked like in real life for you with Paris painting? As far as what did it look like when you first started Paris painting?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you were the only employee.
Oh, it was so tiring. I'm tired just thinking about it. And I have 4 kids, and I'm really tired now. But it was, I started just knocking on doors in Plymouth, Minnesota. And if you know me and my personality, knocking on doors is not my love language. And gosh, but I just did it. I think I was gritty back then, really gritty. So, knock on doors for 4 hours, 6 hours on a Saturday, Sunday. And if you get a couple of estimates, it's a win. And so I would do that and just knocked on doors till I got a couple of bids. And you do those bids the next week, book them. Started out with people working for me, painting right away. I did some painting as well. Treat those customers like gold, market the heck out of those neighborhoods, right? Have your yard sign up. I would then knock on the doors in the neighborhood with my painter whites on. And dude, that was gritty. It was hard work. That's how I started. Just as I like to say, a paintbrush and a dream. And then we grew fast, man. We scaled every year pretty quick. A lot of failures along the way. Probably my biggest failures rely around people. And so I hired my best friend from high school to be my first estimator. And it didn't work out. Actually, he had a painting company as well. I bought his painting company and brought him on with always the idea of maybe this will be a partnership or something long term. and it didn't work out. I didn't have a process. I delegated that responsibility to him. I didn't coach him well. Didn't go through the situational leadership cycle that you're supposed to go through. High direction, coaching, support, and then delegation. High direction, delegation. Classic mistake. I'm a classical guy in that sense. So that was my biggest failure to start. Next biggest failure was round 2. Hired my best friend from college. Actually, when I say hired, I bought his company as well. The idea of being like a test year and then explore partnerships. And I don't want to use the word devolved, but it came to the point of like we're having tense conversations at 4 a.m. near tears, trying to figure out how the year's going to work when we have very competing value sets on how to run a company. So in the fall, he moved on to go to his next endeavor. We're still good friends now. But at that point, I'm 0 for 2 in that failure domain. Along the way, I have failures in every probably function and domain of the company. Drive into the office early. And when I say office, this is a storage shed that I convinced the Comcast guys to run internet to. So it's literally a box with a garage door that goes up and down. I have garbage bags because I hadn't thought through, because when we were small, I just put the garbage in my garbage at my house. Now we're like 3 times as big the next year, and I don't know what to do with all these garbage bags. So I have garbage and flies buzzing around this warehouse, which is also my office. I'm there early in the morning, these giant monitors blaring in my face, just stressed out of my mind. So that's what it looked like, Zach. But kept swinging, kept failing. Eventually you hit some, you double down on your wins, and that's how I did it.
And so what was the first person that you hired in an overhead role?
First person I hired in an overhead role was production. So I was a production manager. That was my least favorite part. Don't like conflict with clients. Don't want to deal with it. Don't know a ton about, I know pretty good. I'm pretty good. I know quite a bit about painting, but a lot of people know a lot more than I do. And I was real about that. And for me, that was the biggest time sink. Probably the area I was least skilled in. At that point, I thought I was a really good estimator, so I felt like my time would be a better return in estimating than it would be in managing production. So that was the first overhead role that I hired.
And what did it look like when you hired that person? You
I got lucky with who we had, man. So Mark is with us still. He's our VP of production and Paris painting. He's our VP of exterior production. So he does our metal trades in Haven, Haven Handyman, and then Paris painting. So I got lucky because what it looked like was trial by fire. It was like we were triaging as a company as a whole. Like everything was triaged, which is you have to make prioritized decision on what's going to have the biggest impact. You can't do everything well, can't get to everything, just with the clip we were growing at. And praise God that I had him, because I could have crashed and burned.
So when he came in, did you like hand him a
Playbook? That would have been nice.
and
Yeah.
a bunch of spreadsheets and a bunch of checklists, and they were like, "Hey, follow. Here's your metrics that you're judged on," and it was all key, or what did that look like? That's what you would recommend to somebody, right?
I would recommend a playbook, KPIs, and a comp model.
Yeah.
Like those are probably the 3 combinational things. Competency model, you want to coach people on, touch them once a month, show progress, get them to a 4 or a 5, probably a 3 or a 4 on the rating scale. 3 being that you consistently can do the results. 4 being you're exceeding the expectations. They earn a 5 when they've proven that they can coach somebody else to consistently get a 3 in that competency. It'd be great if he's a super talented guy, and he's just proven himself to. I guess that's maybe something. I've just gotten really lucky over my life, because he's proven himself to be a business builder in production. He knows how to build competencies, build processes, and develop successors in production. He's done it in Paris. He's doing it in Haven, and you can guess who we're going to tap to do it in spray foam and waterproofing. There's nobody better than Mark to do that.
Can you tell me a little bit more? I need to hear a better breakdown of this comp model,
Yes. Yep.
brief,
Oh, competency models. Yeah. So competency models are just breaking down how to perform a specific skill, right? And so there's a competency model for estimating, for selling. We have them for different task types that we use in coordination. There's a competency of scheduling. Conflict is a competency. Priority management is a competency. Planning is a competency. How to interact socially in large groups is a competency. I have a rating of a 2, unfortunately.
Can you just go over like the sales competency and?
Yeah. So you'd break it down, sales competency. And I'm not our VP of sales. I haven't been in estimating for like 3 years.
Or whichever one.
I'll go off. Yeah. So I'll go off of kind of mostly recollection, but you'd have, the intro and the walk around, right? And what are the 5 components of that you need to train somebody on? And then what are you looking for to give them a rating 1 out of 5? And then, the pure estimating, coming up with a number, that may be another section of this competency. And then the last part might be the bid presentation and closing, right? What's that part of the competency? Having that broken out, the different elements of those, and then what you're looking for. And then when you train somebody at competency, you want to go through the situational leadership model. Situational leadership starts with basically, high direction, coaching, support, delegation. So I do, and you watch. And then I do, you help. And then you do, I help. And then you do, I watch. Right? You have to prove that they're progressing to go through that. And then you can go into delegation, touching it every once in a while to go to support, because no one stays in delegation, because where you go in the situational leadership model is a combination of willingness and skill. And willingness, one of the functions of willingness is their confidence. And humans don't have a stable, consistent confidence level. Right? It goes up and down with life circumstances. So anyone you delegate to, you do need to check in to see if they need some more coaching. Hopefully they don't slide back to support. If they do, that's the hardest stage. That's where you pour in the most, is in support with somebody. But to reap the fruits of delegation, don't do what Jason did round 1. Jason did high direction delegation. That is an equation for failure.
I would say that's the equation that's done by 99% of paint contractors today.
A lot of businesses, right? Not just painting contractors, Fortune 500 companies, not everybody develops people really well. Your ability to develop others, that's what's going to determine your success on a large scale, right? And not everybody does that. Not many people do that well. We have a phenomenal culture in our office and everyone that's with us, and we're really good at developing people. We're really good at high growth, professionalization, developing people. And if we want to succeed in the next 2 to 5 years, we've got to get really good at developing leaders.
That's so. I mean, my mind is blown. So my next, I want to talk about learning. Like, where does all that knowledge that you just dropped come from? Like, how'd you learn that?
The learning zone. Maybe I'll dovetail into that. So you have a performance zone and a learning zone. And there are times where you need to get out there and perform and hustle and do and put your head down and go, 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 go. There's other times where you need to step back, take a look at what's happening, make the iterations or the changes internally, or seek outside, resources to change something. Sometimes you pull into the learning zone, take a look at the landscape and say, I know exactly what I did wrong. It's not rocket science. I know what I need to change. Other times you step back and say, I don't get it, man. I feel like I'm doing everything right. I'm just not working. And you'd go to https://www.google.com, and you type in, right, what you're looking for. So yeah, I'd say just taking the time to be self-reflective and humble. Like, humility helps too, right? Knowing that you don't always have the answers, and what do I need to learn, and be willing to ask others for help and support, and having a healthy mindset there. Those are the people that are self-reflective, can improve themselves by seeking new resources. Sometimes the answer is internally, the answer. Sometimes you have to go external to find it.
So leadership is one of those things. When people say that word, like, I'll just say personally, generally, I have met I've been at talks of leadership experts, and they sold classes on leadership, and there was this thought about, and I'll tell you that personally, the concept of leadership for me for a long time has seemed so subjective and amorphous and like snake oil. Like what leadership? What is that? Here, like follow me and do what I do. Like that's leadership. Like, so as I talk more and listen to, like, obviously what you're talking about, like leadership is very important, and there's some serious like science to it. And even just by listening to you, like I'm gonna take leadership more seriously as a objective thing than I did before. Did you always know that? And just for me, leadership seemed like a silly thing to talk about.
No, I think when I was a kid, I thought that leadership was one of those soft things that people who were leaders wanted to pretend was impactful. I remember having that mindset as a kid. My dad's an engineer, we're very practically minded, and it's just like these are one of those soft, silly things that people are going to do what you tell them to do, regardless of motivation or support or like whatever that is. Getting into a company, you realize that humans are not self-fulfilling of their potential. They don't. They move to entropy. Like they just want to be chaos creatures, and we all do. And then you start to reflect, like that's me. Like I want to be a chaos creature. And how do you lead yourself? And how do you seek out leadership? How do you seek a mentor? And all those things. So, yeah, I'd say I'd just validate with you, Zach. I think I've been in that mindset where I felt like, yeah, leadership is not that big of a deal. It's just something that people like to pretend is a big deal when they're at the top. But you get into it, and like it is the one critical factor of having a successful company. If you define a company as a group of people developing a product or service, like that's what it has to be, is how well those people work together to do that. If you're a solopreneur and you don't want to lead yourself well, you can usually cover up your efficiencies through martyrdom, right? But when you're in a company and you've got other people working for you, you can't do that. You have to provide the path for them, and it's up to you as a leader to make sure they succeed from the very beginning. You have to hire the right person, give them the playbook, have a process, guide them along the path through the stages that I mentioned, right?
Is there a leadership book or books, resource you would recommend?
To recommend, I would go, I don't know, man. I would say School of Hard Knocks is always a good one. So just if you could just go through every failure and then learn from it, I'd recommend doing that.
Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Ones that I've heard, there's a Maxwell one called 21 Laws of Irrefutable Leadership or something like that. Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Like that's a good one. You don't have to believe in like the mysticism of things, but just historical context. There's the Bible has good stories in it. You can learn truthisms from, regardless of the historical accuracy of it or not. Those are probably some of the best leadership principles that I've been able to gain off of just from analyzing the stories or meditating on them and thinking like, how would this apply? Servant leadership is a good mentality. We finally have an org chart in our office. We did not have one until this year, and trying to get it reprinted. It's not going to be my call ultimately. Trying to get it reprinted so that it's just upside down, right? So that you've got your supervisors supporting your direct reports, right? So you'd be at the bottom supporting those, who are then supporting those, who are then supporting those, who are actually delivering your product or service. Because the leader, I don't know, it depends on your leadership philosophy too, Zach. Like some people like to lead via the most stable shape that there is, which is a pyramid, right? Shape, if it's orientated the right way, I would say it's very stable. If it's not, then it's unstable. Other people, this is not, I can just tell you at Paris Painting All Holdings, it's not a pyramid scheme. You don't rise the ranks and get people to work for you and chill out. If you want to be a leader, you have to develop people and pour into them and support them and get them through the coaching situational leadership model. I mean, that's your job as a leader, is to lead people, not to have them serve you.
Yeah. You spoke about mentors. Do you have a mentor? mentors?
I do. So I am kind of dating right now in the mentor field. I had a mentor for about 11 years, and he's going through some things. So we're kind of transitioning there. But I have two guys right now that I'm negotiating with and testing out, and highly recommend it. For me, I was a lot more intentional the second round with who I sought out, and it aligned. I just got lucky again. I'm a lucky guy. Got lucky on my first mentor. And for me, I like to seek out someone that is a high performer in life areas that I find meaningful and interesting. So for me, that's family and business. Those are two life areas, two life domains I like to focus on. I want someone who's a high performer in their family, high performer in their business, and then I have some like faith stuff and just kind of philosophical things that I need to be aligned with as well.
How did you find your first mentor?
First mentor was referral based. So I actually asked a guy if he would be my mentor, and this was the pastor at our church, and he's like, you know what? I think this guy would be a great mentor for you. And he was way better mentor than the first guy would have been. No offense to him, but just we jived a lot more. Same business mindset, high performing in the family. Couple of stages of life ahead of me, so I had that wisdom to provide, like a bounce perspective off of. That's what I'm seeking in my second mentor. So I enter the second stage of my life, same exact things. A couple of stages ahead of me. Saying this one, I kind of had a couple of guys in mind, so I knew what I wanted. I've been through this before. But yeah, the first one was just luck.
Now, how does that conversation go? What is the trade-off? Like,
Yeah.
you're asking for something from them. What does that sales pitch look like, and what are you giving in return?
Similar to how I proposed to my wife. It's very direct, very dry, very matter of fact. So if I had the ability to multitask on my phone, I pulled up the email from the second round, but it was basically, here's what I'm looking for. Here's my intentions. Here's the process I'd like to use as vetting. Are you interested? Right. So intentions are for a long term, right? Same thing with my wife. I took her for a walk. I said, hey, so we've been kind of, gravitating towards each other in groups, and I'd like to spend intentional time with you to determine if we're going to be want to get married, and if we don't, we're going to stop dating, right? But if we do, then I'm going to propose to you. So we're basically going to just try and decide if we should get married or not. She said, all right, sounds great. I have the yeah. I don't want to get into that. That's a long rabbit trail, but I have all my notes, my pro con list, and everything. I actually put it in a scrapbook for her. I laminated them. Had all my notepad notes laminated for her. It was just very methodical, intentional, direct. The pitch, the value prop for a mentor, though, is right now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I can put myself in their shoes, and I would want to mentor others, right? And so you just kind of think of what is the value prop for them. Just say, put yourself in their shoes of why you might want to do that, and just verbalize that. For me, it's, I see you've been successful in these domains. I'm not sure if you're a big give back guy. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm doing in my life. Would you find value in mentoring me in this case? I can provide you some perspective of spiky hair, and you can provide me the perspective of gray hair.
That is very interesting. What made you want to get your first mentor? Where did that idea come from?
So let me put I know the right answer. The right answer is just the self-awareness that I will dive into cognitive dissonance on my own, that I do very, very well with structural discipline and poorly to reactive discipline. I know that about myself. Back then, what was my mindset? I think I was starting to get into that, actually. I think I was starting to get it. So this was in my early 20s. I think I was 21, 22. I was starting to write down, my values, my passions, my objectives, my goals, my milestones, my actions, right? Kind of working your way back. So I was writing those things out, was getting pretty self-reflective, and just knew that I needed wisdom. kind of getting into the big wisdom thing of like, gosh, I just want wisdom. That's all I want right now is just wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. And that kind of relentless pursuit of wisdom, there's a great way to do that is with someone who's a couple of life stages ahead of you. You can talk to about what's going on in your life. They can give you that perspective back. And that's good if they should have a great reputation and ideally be high performing in life domains that you're very interested in.
And
are you asking me to mentor you, Zach?
I'll write it up in a very formal,
Good.
very clear deliverables.
Yeah.
No, I think I've had some informal mentors in the past, but I really don't have one right now. So I need to think about that, because I think you are right. Like, alone, it's very easy to lie to yourself. And
yeah, the one guy I've been courting with for the past 2-3 months, it is like one of the hardest hours of my week, to be honest. He is not a chill dude. And he's very big into alignment, doing what you say you want, and he has no problem holding you accountable. That's why he has a reputation. I sought him out for that. But that 1 hour a week, that's really tough, pays dividends on every other hour of my week. Right? Every other hour of my week is more intentional, more thoughtful, more wisdom filled, because I'm willing to go through that crucible of an hour. And we have good times too, and we have fun, and we chat about stuff. But when I ask him to hold me accountable, he does not pull his punches.
Yeah, I could do really well with that.
With holding people accountable?
No, other way around.
Oh, getting some accountability?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd recommend it, man.
I just brought on a business partner. I want to ask you about that in a minute, but I just brought on a partner. And part of it is kind of that, like, I have craved some more accountability in my business. Been boss, and I've made all the decisions, and I've been all like, it's all me, like, and you start to feel isolated, and like I feel like I've been underperforming in my own little bubble.
Yeah.
And
I'd say it's a very unique individual that wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna, when you're in a bubble, I mean, it's just, that is a recipe for underperformance.
Yeah, totally. And I think I've had sort of, for a long time, I've had mentors and people like that. And now as I've progressed, I have not kicked the bar up. And I feel like less and less I've been around people who are really pushing me the way when I was a complete floundering tadpole. Anyway, so I like this conversation, because personally, I'm going to go home and think more about this.
Good, man.
So, dude, you're just like, you naturally have this, like, oh yeah, at 21 years old, I sat down and started writing out and being super, like, introspective. You think that's just natural? Did you have people that, like, where did that come from?
No, it wasn't natural. I don't know how to answer that question. You just go through life, and you have things that happen, and you react to them, and how you choose to react to them determines your destiny sometimes. So I think it was a combination of things, right? Went through some traumas, tried to cope with them, healthy ways, unhealthy ways. Then, like I always say, just got lucky, got around the right people, had the right people enter my life at the right time, started getting with some good thoughts, and I was lucky, man. Early 20s, got really intentional about what I wanted to do with my life. I think it was 21 or 22, I started doing my 72-hour retreat. Done it for every single year. 72 hours, the second week in December, complete silence, just reflecting on the year, reflecting on the year ahead. And that's a rhythm that has carried forward to this year, was year 11 doing it. So whatever the math is backwards on that. But why? I think I had good roots in life. So I was very fortunate growing up, had good, stable family, good wisdom from my mom. And then, yeah, just got lucky, man. Right place, right time in life.
That's awesome. Do you mentor anybody now?
Uh, no, I would say not formally. I have a few
Yeah.
people that I talk to. No one has approached me to mentor them formally. I take my leadership roles very seriously at work. So those I supervise, I feel like I mentor them, but that's a work relationship. Um, I mentor my kids. I'm very intentional with how I raise my kids. So I have 4 of them. Try and make sure I do one-on-one time with each one of them once a month at least. And then I'm always thinking through, what is the message I want to teach them right now, and how would I do that, right? So just trying to think through how I spend my time with them, what I'm trying to convey to them, what I want to teach them that Saturday, that Sunday, that Tuesday afternoon, whatever it is. But yeah, not outside of that. I need some more gray hairs if they don't show up on this camera.
So obviously we glossed over it, but talk to me about your learning process. Like, are you a reader of books? Are you a Googler and reading what comes to the top?
I'm an obsessive learner. I think the term that I've grasped onto is passionate, right? And so I do have an obsessive personality for sure. I know that I do. I would also call it just a passionate personality. So when I get into something, I get into it, man. And so I read books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I've been doing a lot of exercising in the mornings these days, and usually try and listen to something while I'm doing that. And but a lot of investigative learning too, right? So digging stuff up, just consuming. I think there's an appreciation for the mind's ability to consume content and then reorganize it and put it into an effective way. And I would kind of harken this back to my days of gaming, when I would just really get into a video game and I would just consume it and find out the ways to win, find out the ways to break the game if you can, right? What are the ways that you break it to where it's just, you find the loopholes, whatever it may be. And I think that's the way that I approach whatever topic it is I'm getting really passionate about. I just go all in, think about it, and then let your mind do the magic overnight, right? Your mind will go through REM cycles. It'll try and consume that, let the content soak in, reimagine it. And that's what our human brains are for. Like, they are there to learn things, soak stuff up. Your subconscious will do the magic overnight when you dream about it. And then the next morning you'll wake up and you'll just be amazed at what you can put into practice. Or that's just kind of thinking about your business model, what's holding it back, what are the big threats right now that we need to pour into, what are the big opportunities we need to make sure we're strong at. If you're thinking about how to win in a video game, right, how to swim with an efficient stroke, what should your keyboard layout be with different tactile keys between your modifiers and your home row and all these things, and kind of study it, see what other people are doing, get into it, investigative research. But at the end of the day, let your mind do its magic. I mean, we are not robots, we're humans, and our human brains, that's like I've talked about this on other podcasts, but our human brains are good at some things and not good at other things. And this is something that our human brains are really good at.
Yeah, and I agree. I think just downloading that information and letting yourself process it. Are you I know some people read books and take like vicious notes and reflect back and forth. I'm one that listens to a book and just likes to think that I'm digesting it into my subconscious and then it's like affecting my life.
All right.
But I know other people who read books, take insane notes, and then like review the notes regularly. And how do you consume books like that?
Right. It'd probably be nice if I told you some quirky stuff, right? Like, that's what you want to hear, is to say, oh yeah, and then, I read it and I tear the page out and I put it on my mirror, and every day I say a different word out loud, or just something. But like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not probably a world-class learner. The times where I've had the most success is learn it as if you're going to teach it. And I'd love to tell you, yep, I read the books and I highlight them, and then I speak the words out loud, and then I listen to them, and then I, type them, right? And I do that intentionally because I want every type of communication to enter into. I don't do that, and I wish I did. Maybe, I don't know. The one thing I do is I listen to a book there is a book that I listen to every morning. It's the first thing I listen to every morning. Sorry, it's the first thing I read every morning. It's the first thing I listen to every morning. So I wake up, it's the first thing I see on my phone is the Proverbs. That's what I go through every single morning. There's 31 Proverbs, 31 days in the month. So since December, this is my new habit. I start my habits in December, so that they are a habit by the time January comes around to be a resolution. So since December, every morning, the first thing I look at on my phone is the proverb of the day. First thing I listen to on my car ride in is the proverb of the day. And the first thing I read when I get in the office is the proverb of the day. So I'd use those different types of styles. That's the one place I'm consistent. But I love to say I do that for everything. The one time, kind of the one hack I'd give, the learning hack from Jason, because he's so smart. We can tell you something quirky would be just learn it like you're going to teach it to somebody.
Love it. What do you think you are superhuman at?
Failing. I think I'm good at failing. I think I'm pretty good at failing. I move past it pretty quick. Have a pretty good sunk cost mindset. Iterate pretty fast. Luck. Pretty good at being lucky. Pretty good at being unlucky. Pretty good at being lucky. I've had my fair share of both. I think others could tell you what I'm good at better than I could. I think I'm pretty good at rallying a team of people to follow, on a path. I think I'm pretty good at reinforcing messaging. Pretty good at video games, I like to think.
What's your favorite game?
I haven't played in 4 years. So I had a gaming computer. I think I told you I'm pretty bad at reactive discipline, really good at structural discipline. So I had a really hard time. I'm big into real-time strategy gaming. So at the time, this was a lot of StarCraft and not Dota, but the cheesy one, League of Legends. And I was playing a lot each night while trying to scale a business. And we just had our second kid. And I did not have the self-discipline to come home at night and do what I wanted to do, which was not play video games. I would just play video games. But I got really good at not playing video games at night after I disassembled my gaming computer. Then I was really good at it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the same thing with a lot of my domains at life. Like, I'm not the best disciplined at eating, but I'm really good at disciplined eating if I know I'm only going to eat this smoothie for breakfast and lunch, right? When I do that, I'm really good at it. Or pick your vice, right? Whatever your vice may be. Reactive, I just try and not put myself in reactive situations if I can. Pretty good at structural, I like to think.
Love it. So I would imagine then you're a pretty proactive guy in your
Maybe
in
intentional architecture to guide the habits that will lead towards the path that I have chosen in life, right? So I'm pretty intentional on what I know what I'm passionate about, right? And those passions help guide my objectives. Know what I'm passionate about. I know what my purpose is, and I know what my objectives want to look like. Your objectives are different from goals. Objectives are, to use an example, is I want to be physically fit and able to do whatever it is I want to do, right? That's an objective. A goal would be, I want to run a 3-hour marathon, right? That's a goal that gets you towards that objective. And the example I always give is, what if you get both of your legs blown off somehow through an IED or I don't know. You get them amputated, who knows? 3-hour marathon is probably not in the cards for you. Maybe, I don't know. Let's just say it's not. You can still hit your objective, but not through that same goal, right? Your goals are just guideposts to move you in the direction of where your objective is. So I'm pretty intentional about, I know what my objectives are. I know I've set guideposts and goals to get me over to there. And then I review these a lot too. This is things that I just don't inherently do. I am a human. I steer towards cognitive dissonance. I steer towards entropy, chaos in my life. I have found that for me, weekly reminders help me remember. So I'm just not good. I'm not inherently good at remembering what it is I want to do with my life, even in these different life domains. But these reminders help. And maybe that's the best kind of thing we're getting to, is I think I'm pretty good at architecting a system because I know what I want and I force myself to remember it.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm a big advocate of that. Of like, I like this, like facilitating the outcome that you're looking for. You know, I it's like, okay, what is the, if I were to design the, like the model that was going to give me the most predictable, like positive result, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like the idea that I'm gonna, like, I need to structure as much as possible because I'm not very good at reactive discipline either.
Yeah.
I think you probably have more structural discipline built in than I do right now, and you're going to inspire me to continue to put more, like like it's the selfish little like kid in me is like, oh, more structural discipline is going to mean that I won't get to do what I want to do in the moment all the time, but
True.
it does, but it also means that you get to your objectives.
Yeah. It means that you do what you want to do for real.
Yeah.
Right.
And you,
And that's kind of the paradox of like, what is, to be a slave to the system so you can be free. Architect a system that you can be a slave to, so that you can be free. And freedom does not mean that you get to do whatever you want. Freedom is within a system, within a confine. Um, Maybe I don't know what the word paradox means. Maybe I'm not a philosophy major, but um, the most true freedom you can have is usually within a system, within an architecture that you get to establish and choose. That's what freedom is.
I love it. So within your, back to the company a little more specifically, um, production, or let's talk about what are the limiting factors of the painting company right now? You said it's leadership.
Yeah. So right now, I love these conversations. I hate them too. I'm like, Zach, we're growing by 2 million this year. Give me a break. Like, we're growing. Calm down. What is limiting us from growing right now? It is, yeah, I think it's developed leaders. So we're probably limited by like Mark and Micah's ability to manage PMs and sales reps, and we need to develop those underneath them to step into the next role. And that's not a role that we can instantaneously fill. It has to be groomed. Um, Hiring that role would be tough. You'd pay a pretty high premium, and it probably wouldn't always. That always doesn't always work. So it's a role that we have to groom. And then it's probably limited somewhat by our annual budgeting too, right? I mean, we put ourselves in residential repaint. You get ahead of your skis a little bit Q1 and Q2, early Q2, right? Because you don't quite know how the year's going to pan out, but you're front loading a lot of those expenses. And so, the question is, could we do 20 million this year? Probably not, right? I think we'll do 7, but I don't think we could do 20. One, I don't think I'd want to commit to that financially. The investors, the shareholders probably wouldn't commit to that financially, to want to put up that capital and play that risk. And I don't think we have the developed leaders yet. Those are being groomed.
So you have everything down to a system. You talked about like just growing like 3x, like growing fast.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that a lot of people would look at that and be like, well, where the heck is where's all this work coming from? And who's doing all this work?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it sounds so easy to say, well, we 3x our revenue this year.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
So I think there's just a acknowledgement that it's really hard and it's painful and it's not easy, especially in the early stages. At that point, you're not just saying like, oh, I don't want to commit the capital quite yet because it sounds risky, or we have to develop leaders. Like that's where you're in the feedback cycle. Like, how quickly can you adapt every single system to find what works? Because what works for you may not work for somebody else. Right? In those early stages, like, you're figuring out how to estimate for you. You're figuring out how to leave your job site managers for you. You're figuring out what kind of a CRM, ERP system you're going to use to manage things and keep them organized. And what works one year isn't going to work the next year when you're growing at that pace. So that's where it's hard, man. Where does the work come from? It comes from marketing, right? So the work comes from marketing, and marketing is, again, find out what works and stack your chips. And the only way you're going to find out what works is you got to track your data and know your numbers. And then you can say, all right, this returned a good ROI. This didn't. Let's put more dollars on this one. right? Don't put your dollars on losers, put your dollars on winners. Um, and then who does the work? Um, the workers do the work. And so then you have to say, well, where's my source for workers? It's a great question. Figure that out. Where's your source for workers? And then execute that model. What's working, what's not working. Put your dollars on what's working. Don't put your dollars on what's not working. And your energy points, right? Dollars and energy points. Put it on what works. To find out what works, you have to track everything. That's what's going to tell you what's winning or what's not. Or you can talk to other people's and try and replicate their model, but sometimes the business owners are unique. You're unique. What works for you doesn't work for somebody else. Or you might find out that what works for somebody else kind of works for you. But if you were to go off of what maximized your strengths, you could actually be on another level that you're not realizing. I think that's something we did early on is I just played to my strengths. What I'm uniquely talented and really good at, we just crafted a system that really helped scale with that. And eventually it moved beyond me, and now it's just a machine and a system. But those early years, it was like, what is Jason good at? And let's build a model around that.
I think what stood out to me about what you just said is, and you talked about it in depth, like from a 50,000-foot view of fast, like short feedback loops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think very many paint contractors have short feedback loops. In order to have a short feedback loop, you need to have collected data and analyzed data. And like it's one thing. So it's one thing to collect the data. That's a big hurdle for a lot of guys.
Yep.
Stopping to analyze that data is a whole nother hurdle for other guys.
Yep.
What would you say to somebody who's like starting out or trying to get better at that? Shortening the feedback loop. Do you have any?
I think a loop is good because most of the times it's an open loop. It's just a line that's out there and doesn't close. So you put it well, like close the loop, know what's happening, and like reactive to bank account doesn't work. Probably the lowest hanging hurdle to get over is job costing. So you know what's working and what's not, what types of jobs are profitable and what's not, and don't get hung up on the tool that you're using. Just start recording the information. You can do this on paper if you want to. You can do it on an Excel sheet, and I'm a big fan of Excel sheets. I once gave a talk on Excel. No, you weren't there. Somebody let me do a talk on Excel sheets once, like a 45-minute talk, and I just did like the history of Excel sheets. Didn't really talk about the business application of painting. And he grabbed the mic from me when like I was ending, and I was never invited to speak again. I'm back.
I think that is a huge, like, hopefully we inspire one more person to go close their feedback loop.
Yeah, I think that's probably a great takeaway, Zach, is, are you do you have a feedback loop? If not, close the loop. And how do you close the loop? You need the information. So what do you need to do to get the information? Because then you can analyze it, and the speed at which you can analyze it determines the speed that you can iterate. The speed that you can iterate means that you'll be utilizing your resources to the maximum potential. And the quicker you can do that, the quicker you'll grow or scale or just be more productive and more happy. Growing to a company where you're a shareholder and your equity produces cash regardless of your effort or time, that's not everybody's goal. It doesn't have to be. We talk about professionalizing businesses, and you can professionalize a large scaling company. You can also professionalize, an owner operator model. And you're more profitable. Your clients are happier. They're better. They're communicated with better. You're going on bids that you win at. You know exactly how to train your apprentices. Maybe you just have 2 people working with you. You just want to be effective. And I think that's maybe something to differentiate here is it doesn't have to be scale, passive shareholder. We're talking about professionalization, which means effectiveness.
Yes. And maybe we should even go one step further. Like, let's break down feedback loop in like layman's terms.
Yeah.
I think I follow, but I'm not sure if everyone necessarily would. What do you mean by a feedback loop?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's do 2 of them, right? So one would be, is my marketing effective? And so you would record the amount of dollars you spend on each marketing type. So how many dollars did I spend on flyer delivery? How many dollars did I spend on Google ads? How many dollars did I spend on door knockers, or yeah, just say door knockers. And then how many estimates did each one of those categories generate? And then that'd be one feedback loop. So what marketing source gets you the most estimates per dollar? That's it. That's like, it's not that complex. We're talking about complexity. But it does take discipline to record the information and then step back and analyze it, right? Then you can start to look at, of those estimates, do they all have even success ratios, right? Am I booking the same percentage of each source, or am I booking more through this specific source, right? And why is that? Maybe that source has better messaging towards who your true value, who the client is that your value prop rings truest with, right? And then you maybe go a step further, and this is where you have another kind of third-party feedback loop, which is job costing. And you see, well, what is my profitability per marketing source, right? And why is that? Is this marketing source just setting expectations the right way, right? This message that this marketing piece has hits the client the way our value prop is meant to hit it, and it doesn't set unrealistic expectations, so we're going to have high profitability, right? Now you know where to stack your chips. Job costing would be another feedback loop, which is how much paint did I spend at this job? How many dollars in materials I spent on this job? How many dollars in labor did I spend on this job? And if you're out there, I would job cost it as if you had to pay someone to replicate your efforts. Whether you pay yourself or not, write that out as far as a cost. Now you can see the profitability by job type, by marketing source, by, when are you estimating it and what season of the year. Now you can start to analyze the data based off the results and the categories to see what categories most align with your desired results. Now focus your efforts and your dollars on the winners.
So even then, I think that was still might have been two.
Dang it.
In the so a feedback loop simply is I do something, like I shoot a gun at a target, and if I never get to look at the target, if nice. It's far away, I can't see it. There's no feedback, right? I'm shooting, I think it's being accurate, but if I never go look at the target, maybe I keep missing in the same spot over and over and over. Going to now, so the loop of the feedback loop is I do something, I go see how it performed, and then I can make a decision about what's happening, right? If I'm going to work all year long and then never look at my numbers until I go to my accountant, that's a really long feedback loop, right?
At least you have a loop, right? But
yeah,
it's not very accurate. There's not many data points, and it's hard for you to make decisions based off of that information. We just want to make good decisions. This is like a principle. This is like a truthism. You're always just trying to make a good decision, and you should try and steer away from bad decisions. And it sounds really, really simple, but it's been something I've been like harkening on for like years. It's just like, okay, we want to make a good decision here, right? We don't want to make a bad decision. All right, let's try and make a good decision. And your analogy was way better. I like that. Where you're shooting at a target, you gotta see if you're hitting or not. Right? Maybe you're a little far to the left. You move a little bit to the right. But if you're just shooting, and you take a break, and then 2 days later you come back and look at the target, it's gonna be hard to adjust, right? Real-time feedback is always gonna be the most accurate. That's what I was talking about. The tighter you can get that feedback loop, the more dialed in you can get, and a lot faster.
Yeah, if you saw every shot, if you took a shot, saw exactly where it was, and then adjusted, that's going to be much easier data to make the good decision of how do I get closer to the target than if I shoot 5 shots.
That's a great analogy, Zach. It's worked so well because think about, like you said, right? People will job cost once a year with what's in their bank account. Well, imagining shooting at a target every single day for a year, and then you take all the targets and line them up in December, and you look at them, say, all right, how am I going to get closer to the target? I don't know, man. I mean, unless they're all to the left, like, all right, pull a little bit to the right.
Yeah. But, and I think that because, well, we can say that we all have to make that decision, right? We all have to make a decision of what do we do next, right? we can choose to do it with, like, so next year comes around, we go to shoot at the target again. Probably we're not going to do exactly the same thing. So we have to do something different. Well, if we haven't gotten great feedback, we're going to be doing things based off of gut feeling, or one or two times something happened, right?
Yeah.
How often do we do that, right? That's our nature, is to go, one time something happened, so I'm now going to react and never have that happen again.
Yeah.
Well, what
Especially
happens
if it's negative. Yeah.
luck, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a lot of data, if you have 10 jobs you got from Google, and you can look at all 10 of them and go, well, total, they're actually pretty profitable. But if you looked at the one and let it like super negatively affect you, you might never reinvest in Google.
Yeah. As you said, like, humans have biases. Like, this is something bad about humans.
Yeah.
Somebody I know, they were pretty into biases, and I ended up going into a deep dive on Wikipedia of human biases, and there's a lot of them. And you're talking about like a negativity bias, right? We tend to put more weight on negative events than we do averaging them out with positive events. So being aware of your biases, that's where data helps to combat them. But it's a double-edged, like, there's two parts of it, right? It's good to look at data. You should definitely analyze data to find out if your gut is true or not, but also be aware that sometimes your gut doesn't just think things for no reason. And that's where you just got to be careful with things and not, you can't go too far in either direction. Data is great, really, really good, but there's some domains where it's just good to follow your gut, because there's a lot of neurons down there, and it doesn't just feel things for no reason.
Yeah, totally. All right. That brings me to something I have written down here, which is separating feelings from data.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's good, right? Because humans have biases, and I've been proven wrong lots of times. Sometimes, like, I'll see some moldy bread in our cupboard. I'm like, okay, this is gluten-free bread. Who knows how much this costs per loaf? I can only imagine. And then, like, I take that event as being like, we are just overspending on groceries. And now I'm upset that we're overspending on groceries, and that is not a good feeling. When we're trying to steward our finances well, we have financial goals and all those things. And then I will look at the facts, which is our grocery budget, the reality to that budget, our median to the USDA, family our size recommendation, and I'll say, oh, well, the data shows that we're actually, well within pace of what I would expect. So that's a good example of marrying the two together. In my age these days, I have steered towards the other direction, which is I listen to my gut a lot more than I used to. And particularly when it comes to people, that's where I feel like I've been steered wrong, where I just kind of overanalyze things sometimes and write it on paper, and I ultimately should just think with my gut, or at least acknowledge the feelings that you have. You don't just feel things for no reason, right? There's a reason why you are feeling that way, and call it out as a bias or whatever it may be, but acknowledge it. That's probably an important thing. Acknowledge your feelings, acknowledge why you. There's another thing. Hopefully, no one watches this interview too much, or too many times, or analyzes it too much. But people don't just say things for no reason. Sometimes I'll be in a conversation with someone, and they'll just make one of those comments, and you just kind of like let it go. But they didn't say that for no reason. Like, it's like, oh yeah, and I guess I'm really worried about that. That's fine. All right, now let's talk about this. Like, well, you wouldn't just say that you're worried about it for no reason. Like, you don't feel things for no reason. People don't say things like micro expressions or micro kind of flippant comments for no reasons. There's more in your subconscious and in your gut than you realize, and you should at least acknowledge it, if not seek to take action on it. But be cautious of biases, because we are humans.
Yes, the human biases, but also like the trauma biases and the shapings of, if you just have you have this like strong lean one way,
Yeah.
like figure out you have that and like try to correct that.
Yep. Yep.
I can think of plenty of examples of in myself and in other people where you're like, dude, you have that thing about you that's
Yeah.
this. So like factor that in when it's like as part of the decision. Like that feeling maybe
Yes.
get a full credit.
Yeah. Seek to normalize your biases. Normalize the information so you're not putting it through your bias filter. That's probably good practice.
Principles, Ray Dalio's principles.
I listened to him last year, so I'm familiar with it. It's not like ingrained in my everyday. Is that
He had
one? Or what are we talking?
a fascinating internal computer program that they designed over
Yeah.
many
Yep.
for decision making.
Yep. Yep.
Everyone weighted scale of like, you know, if it came to a thing you were really good at, your vote counted for more than someone who wasn't very good at that thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. How do you appropriately weigh information to make a good decision? How you filter out the biases. If you have a trusted advisor or mentor, what weight do you put on that information that they're giving you versus the weight of some random person? And this is like getting over my head, but yeah, how do you take information and synthesize it properly to be able to make good decisions? That's like a big life thing, man.
Yeah. My feel generally like 99% of trainers, like the biggest thing that's holding them up is their biases. It is their own like tilt,
They're head trash, yeah.
the head trash
For
that's making
yeah.
that's
Like one common one is, oh, if I raised my prices, people would just cuss me out and they'd think I was a crook and no one would book with me because I already get a lot of people saying that I'm too expensive.
you
Great feeling. Totally understand why you feel that way. You've had people tell you, it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter what your prices are. Very similar percentages of people are going to tell you that you're too expensive. You could be $20 an hour. You're not the lowest bid, but we really want to go with you. You could be 60 an hour. No, you're not the lowest bid, but really want to go with you. Right? You could be a lot higher than that. And at some point, right, there's a breaking point. But that's a good example of a head trash thing. Or gosh, if I'm doing the estimate but not managing the project, it's just going to blow up, and clients aren't going to like it. And yeah, we found the opposite. Clients love it. Like every role is extremely accountable, right? And you're not relying on any person that can be flawed. Like you're relying on a system of accountability at Paris Painting. And there's just a lot of head trash that people hold. And, I think the more you can talk about it, just acknowledge it and call it out. And the mentorship thing is huge. If you can find a mentor that you can work with and talk to with, or even just a peer group, ideally some that are high performing, that's where the magic happens.
yeah. I think a lot of us, most of us, those biases end up with making the same mistakes over and over again. I think that's fairly common in humans. And the question is like, how do we get out of that? Like, how do we stop making the same mistake over and over?
Yeah, it could be remembering, could be architecting a better maze that you can't go down that path anymore. Um, you could learn to overcome your bias as well. So it could be just repetition, remembering, but I think those are probably the two models. You either got to remember it and overcome it, or you have to architect a system where you're not going to be able to run down that maze without at least going through some gates.
I love that, the architecting one.
Yeah.
For me, that's what I have to do.
Yeah, that's what I have to do, man.
Systematize something to get me from doing the thing that I don't want to do.
Right. Yeah. And I think we all have our strengths and our weaknesses when it comes to discipline, right? There are some things I'm very good reactively with, right? If I'm tempted to do something that's not my desire, that's not my conscious desire, my deliberate choice, pretty good at giving that the old stiff arm. But there are other domains where it's like, yeah, I'm pretty weak there, man. I really gotta keep a good system. So, I think there's a reality that some people are more disciplined than others. There's also a reality that people can be more disciplined in some life domains than other life domains. And just knowing yourself and seeking accountability, architecting a system, not thinking too highly of yourself, having fun with it. These are all things that can help you achieve whatever it is you're going after, right? What are your objectives? What is your life purpose? What is it that you're passionate about? think about those things, write them down, put it on a poster, put it above your bed, look at them every day. And that also helps guide you in the motivation to want to put up a system, right? Or to have that reactive discipline. It's hard. There's an old saying that the kids have, which is, without a vision, the people will cast off their restraint, right? So it's hard to maintain a discipline unless you know where you're going. And it's a very real thing on the individual level as well as an organizational level.
Love it. All right, so you are building an empire. Why are you building an empire?
This is great. So I think you watched the Nick interview. I'll give the same answer I gave him, which is just that accounting at the end of your life, right? To say, I think this has been told ad nauseum, but here's what I had planned for you. What did you achieve? And just a reality. I've been extremely fortunate in life. I have a lot of opportunities in front of me, and if I weren't to maximize those abilities, what would that look like at the end of my days? I'd say even since that interview, because it was a really good question. Sometimes you're a good interviewer, Nick's a good interview. Sometimes you guys will ask me a question, I'll talk about it, and I'll think about it for a while. I think the thing that almost haunts me, I don't know if I quite would go that sense, but what is the potential in others that I am responsible for helping develop? What is behind, what is in that person? What is in this person X that their potential in some ways hinges on my ability to fulfill my potential? And, what impact does that have rippling out on their family, on people that they interact with, on their kids? And, if I'm going to just coast, right, what does that look like as opposed to really being intentional? 33 years old, plan on living about 110 years more. And, what does it look like to finish the race strong when you're a fourth of the way into it, or a fifth of the way?
Love it. That's what Gary Vee always says, like he's doing all to have a. Have you ever heard him say that?
I think so. I'm sure I've seen like a poster or something of his saying something like that.
But I think that is an innate thing in us, right? It's like it's like almost karma. Like what you're describing is kind of karma, like in a way. Like did I do the best I could with what I had, like, or not? Right.
Yeah, and some people, kind of where I lean in some of my philosophies, but it'd say, where you're going in the end of your days, there is no work. This is your only chance, right? So do what you're going to do with it, because this is not an eternal experience that you get to embark on. And whether you're dead or afterlife dead, you're not going to get to do this again. So this is your only shot. Put your full might into whatever your hand finds to do, right? As the kids say. But I think there's that, and then it's not hard to be motivated in America. This is a land of opportunity. I oftentimes will think about my ancestors in generations past. If they saw the opportunity that I had in front of me, they wouldn't know what to say. They'd be like, "What? You can change the lot of your life dependent on how disciplined and hardworking and ingenuity and all these different things, how much you want to lean in." We were just like peasants on a hill. And even now throughout the world, right, not many people have the opportunities that we have. Particularly, I'm fortunate enough to be an entrepreneurial, business owner, right? And not everyone gets that path in life either, right? And here I am. I found it, and to some extent, I chose the path. To some extent, it chose me, and I find myself extremely fortunate, and I should be leaning in. I should be maximizing that opportunity that you have in front of you. And then I'll give you the unhealthy answer, which is I'm very motivated by slights. And I have a mental list of all those who have crossed me and slighted me, and I prayed about it at one of my retreats probably 3 or 4 years ago to be delivered from it, and it didn't happen. So I just have these there's like six or seven events in my life that I can point to where I'm like, that was like, you counted me down and out, and I'm never going to forget that. and I will be delivered from it someday. I'll come to like a healthy mental state, but right now, if I'm being honest, that is just a little part of my motivation.
Share one of those.
Oh,
You don't have.
probably. Let me think. Let me think if there's one that I'll give you the classic one, and whether this is true or not. Right,
Okay.
the high school girlfriend who cheats on you,
Yeah.
and goes to date an older guy, and you feel like a chump. Right, you never forget that.
Yep.
Something like that, not that exact situation.
No, I get it. I love it.
Yep.
And sometimes I think you could call that a trauma if you want. It's a trauma, right? It's traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
I think our traumas get us really far, and then at some point they start to hold us back, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
Trust me, I acknowledge this is not a healthy thing. I try and not be. It's not a primary motivator. I hope. I've written them down. I've prayed, meditated on it, prayed about it. Want to be delivered from it. I'll be honest, I'm not yet. So I just need to get. There's some stuff I gotta work through. So sorry to break the facade of like perfect person, mental guru thing, but
Of me interviewing you is to build you up and then tear you
and then
down.
tear me down. You're like chipping away. I appreciate it. You'll edit this out, I'm sure. So that's good.
Because, well, no, the point of this is to show you your humanness, right? To show every other human that here's another human,
Yeah.
and look at what like because you personally you inspire me. So, like I think that you probably inspire a lot of other people. So, and part of that inspiration is like, look what I have achieved, but also like, hey, I'm a human like you, and you can too.
Way. Here's the mental hang-ups that I have, right? All those things. And yeah, I think it's good to talk through. I think these are only positive things. You do a great job. You're digging in deep, right? You're wearing me down, and you're getting to the true core here. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important. I don't want to go too far. Like, we're not going to dig any deeper.
Okay,
I guess I'm going. But I think I'm fascinated by people. I'm fascinated by success, and like deconstructing it. Like how did you get here? I can see there's parts of me that I can relate to. There's parts of me I'm like, I'm not. I don't think I was wired like Jason Paris. So
for sure. Yeah, we're all different.
try to emulate your wiring,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I can take like parts of what your message has been tonight about your story and go like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna maybe double down on that or think more about that, or like you've expanded my like the 4 minute mile is now possible.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I think if we can do that, for one person, for two people, for three people, then that's a great thing to put effort to.
Yeah, I've watched. I can't help but watch like Who's Watching, and
Yeah.
I knew a long time ago we were going down a rabbit hole that we were going to lose a lot of people.
Good.
But I don't like I'm not doing it for the short term viewers of like how many people can I get to watch right now. It's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna rewatch this, and I hopefully other people will. So in that, like I think we've kind of the last piece I want to touch on before we get into our three questions is I want to hear about the PCA a little bit. I want to hear your perspective on the PCA and your vision for it. Don't sell me. Just tell me what the PCA is doing. What's the point of the PCA? Why should I join?
Yeah. PCA is an association, so it's for the benefit of the members, also for the benefit of the industry. It's a nonprofit that's also underwritten by the major sponsors. So we have all four major paint manufacturers on board now. This is new. We've always had Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore. I think in the last year, PPG, and now Behr is just stepping up as well. And so they are all really incentivized to do to support what the PCA is doing. In a lot of ways, PCA is like an R&D fund for the industry. How do we make sure that, I think the tagline is, how do we make sure we build better contractors, right? It's so cost-wise, it's extremely subsidized. There's no profit baked into it. So it's about $1 a day plus tax. The thing that's done really well for a long time have been the events. And I just say that has been world class. Right? PCA has put on really, really good events in the past. Tough year with COVID, but also fun to see it kind of adapt and challenge itself on how does it provide value to members when it's not putting on events. Events will come back, coming back regionally this year, starting in the South as it warms up, and then hopefully moving up, depending on the tone of each state. We'll have the big one next year in Orlando. I think February is usually when it is. But now it's a lot more digital resources. So Overdrive is the Netflix of PCA. This has been a big push because PCA has always had tremendous video and podcast assets. I mean, the members that it has are just the most amazing people in the industry. And I'll tell you why. It's because you have open-minded, growth-minded startup guys. Then you have those who are successful and doing awesome things that also want to give back. Right? Those are the people that pour into the PCA. So now you have Overdrive that helps kind of uncover or unleash these videos, these podcasts that the PCA has had hidden away and locked away within this complex member navigation scheme that it's had. Yeah, that's a big thing. Trade Best Practice Series is basically, a primer to getting an apprentice into the field. So there are a bunch of videos on the basics of painting and paint lingo, followed with some quizzes. That's a free resource to members, obviously along with Overdrive, which is free. Another digital asset that we're trying to pump out, acknowledging that events weren't happening last year. There's like 2 more, but I'll be honest, I'm pretty tired, man. This is past my bedtime. Let me see what else there is. I don't know. There's other ones. Look at old episodes.
Yeah. So where do you see the PCA going in the next 2 years?
A lot changes every 2 years. So if the board will have me, and I'm not cooed by Nick Slavic and Christian Militello, who are the other 2 officers who are always trying to do a military coup on me, I will be serving through 2022. And I'd say by that point, I think stability for the next chair that steps in, leaving it in a better place than where I picked it up. I think the influence of our content is growing and will continue to grow, and that's a focus. So the number of eyeballs and the consumption, the quantity of content that gets consumed, right? This podcast should go on Overdrive and be consumed by our members there. But also, it does the camaraderie part really well, does the painting technical part really well. I think we're starting to get onto a path where we're going to do the business professionalization really well. Right? So how do you bring a company through the professionalization? Introduction. PCA is not a coaching company. You would then graduate likely to a coaching entity. But how do you get that initial primer? Those are probably the low hanging fruit items of where the PCA should be in the next 2 years.
Yeah. I love it, man. So I was a very skeptical. I had a bad experience with the PCA many years ago, right? Yeah. And I was very skeptical. Nick convinced me to come to an expo. The expos are unbelievable. I can't wait till COVID is over because they're worth the price of admission all by themselves. But Overdrive has been huge. The fact that now all of the content the PCA has curated and created over all these years is finally like, boom, in one spot.
Yeah. I think you're seeing a younger generation come in. So I've been involved with a handful of years, and I think there's a reason why they selected me to be the chair. And compared to the PCA, I'm pretty young. Compared to a lot of people, I'm not very young, but there's a growth mindset, kind of professionalized mindset. And I think you made a comment earlier about, our viewership dropping when I go on these weird tangents, but some of the times this is not my phrase I'm using, but some of the times this is more of a dog whistle than a bullhorn. And a bullhorn is just, you're getting a lot of content out there to the mass markets, and you're just doing the stuff that everybody wants to hear, right? The platitudes, the sneaky tricks, the 20-second clip. This is long form media where we dive deep, and not everyone's going to watch it, but those who do, it's a dog whistle to that type of a person. I have to plug in my phone, Zach. This is a long. I'm sorry. I'm just on my floor here. All right. I'm good.
Yeah,
I have
I think
infinite energy now.
the point is if you're into this stuff, like that's what I'm trying to do at least. I'm trying to create content that if you're into it, like I would have killed to hear this interview 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh man, I was there with you. I just remember the early years where I thought it was a struggle, man. I talked to you about the struggle years, and I just remember going to the paint store, and I had my Hyundai Elantra, and I was just looking at everybody else's nice trucks, and I'm like, oh gosh, I just must. Why am I the only one that's struggling here? And I don't know if you've ever been to the paint store, where people aren't really friendly, and like you try and talk to them about something, and it's just a lot of boasting, and like no one's honest with you. So yeah, that's what this is good for. It gives people a little bit of perspective. I'll post it later. Somebody asked a comment in here, but the PCA website is pcapainted.org, and that's where you would sign up to be a member of PCA. I'll comment down there later, but I saw someone ask about it.
PCAPaintEd.org.
Yep. And someone said it's $400 a year. That's right. I made up that's $1 a day plus tax. It's there's no profit baked into that, and it's highly subsidized by all the paint manufacturers as well as other industry partners as well.
Yeah. It's just like if you're going to be a professional painter, like I think I probably got into it first. It's like if I'm going to be a professional painter, I should probably join the professional organization for paint contractors.
Yeah.
But then there's so much more to it, you know?
Yep. Yep.
But there is something to be said for like the
I just started reading the comments because I moved because someone asked, are you reading the comments? Because my holder that I had was covering up the bottom half of the phone. Unfortunately, I see my face now, and that's not making me want to talk too much, but maybe I can find a way to cover this actually.
That's tremendous.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
It's a pretty good little hack.
Yep.
I've been staring at my face for hours and hours and hours throughout the life of this podcast.
Ugh.
It's not a fun thing.
Yeah.
All right, so PCA, everyone's going to go join the PCA now after hearing this. That was an amazing sales pitch. We are awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm a great sales guy. I think with the PCA, their biggest challenge right now is just awareness. I mean, I've been involved pretty heavily with PCA volunteering for the last couple of years. I'm just like fully grasping all the value that's tucked away, that it's been like this deal of like, you just know, like people who are in the PCA just know how to find stuff, but then like new people join and they're like, okay, everyone's really into this. Like, am I just like missing it? And now I'm just starting to get into it. And I think that's one of our big initiatives this year. It's just awareness, right? How to get the messaging out there of here's the value that you that's inherent in membership, that is highly subsidized by all the paint manufacturers. Everyone's on board to get this stuff out there because they do better when you pay your paint bill, and you're going to pay your paint bill more likely if you're a PCA member, because you're going to get some value that will help you professionalize your company.
Yeah. And I think it's like a mindset thing, like, you know, facilitating the greatness. You know, if we're talking about architecture, like, all right, well, yeah. I think all things being equal, being a member of the professional organization for paint contractors or not, I'm going to go perform a little bit better, be a little more proud to be a painter. And even if you didn't learn anything, do a little bit better by being a member of the organization of other pros. Never mind. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap up. It's been a long one. I have 3 questions to ask you.
All right.
First one is, I need a DIY painting tip.
Stretch out your hamstrings first. Really important. Critical to stretch out your hamstrings. They get too tight, then it's going to trickle up to your back. Now you got back issues, then you got neck issues, then you're not sleeping well, then you're overeating because you're tired, you don't know how to control yourself. Then you get overweight, and then you can't run with your kids. Then your neighbors are making fun of you. Then you're getting upset at them. You throw a rock at their kid. Don't throw rocks at kids. Just stretch out your hamstrings.
That's a that's a very I can see that that happens to all of us who don't stretch our hamstrings.
Yeah.
So that's the first time anyone's talked about physical fitness or just limbering up before painting. But that is a great tip, right? It's
Thank
physical.
you. Yeah. Better than Nick Slavic's tips. That's for sure.
Always. He does painting. He's such
I'm just
a
joking. No, he's good.
yeah. All right. I need a favorite piece of paint paraphernalia, but like in running your painting business, like cool piece of equipment, software program. You can't say Excel because everybody knows Excel already. Other than Excel, what's your most valuable or favorite paint paraphernalia?
Most value is going to be Wallogy, which is our custom software that we've been developing over the handful of years. My favorite is going to be one of two things. Well, it would be made me put it away when we had our first kid because she didn't want me touching the hat and then touching our baby.
Lost that. I lost that last part.
Oh, an old hat that I have from when I started. It got so dirty that my wife made me store it away when we had our first kid. She didn't want me to touch the hat and then touch our baby because it's so dirty and grimy. Otherwise, I use a chip brush in the office sometimes when I dress up. I have a little, like my dress shirt in a pocket. I'll put a chip brush in there. I'll just walk around and say, a paintbrush in a dream, guys. Paintbrush in a dream, guys. Paintbrush in a dream, guys. And they're all sick of it. But then someone in internet land will like encourage me, and then the office has to hear it for another 3 months.
Can you go back to what is this software? And it's called Wowogy?
So I don't know. We called it Wallogy.
Wallogy.
Came off of, I started with just a complex series of Excel.
Something happened to the audio.
Oh, that's because I keep covering it with my finger.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Wallogy started with just a complex series of G sheets that tied in with each other, and then our visual scheduling manager was a giant wall of 4x8 sheets of galvanized steel that were bolted to ladders that were friction fit up through the grid ceiling. And then we had subway tiles representing each project with crew swim lanes. And so I did that for 2 years. And then we moved to custom software. And over the past 3 years, we've been building this out. And it's what we operate Paris Painting on to scale. It's what we operate Haven Builders on to scale. This acquisition we're going through, that's going to operate on this system as well. Pretty dialed in. It's a pretty awesome way to scale in the trades. It's not something we're offering right now. I probably will in upcoming years, maybe, who knows? Or it might just only be available through acquisition into Olive Holdings. But yeah, that's where the name comes from, and that's what it is.
Oh man, we're gonna on another podcast. We're gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Let's go down it, man. Yeah,
I want
that's like my world. That's a good percentage of my job right now is the onboarding and adoption and iterations of Wallogy within our current systems, within our current business units, but also this upcoming acquisition, making sure it's built out for that. And all the trades are kind of like cousins to each other, and you just have to find the common through lines and then what's different.
Yeah, I think yeah, I want to talk all about that at another time because I think what you've done there and the ability to bring on other entities and fit them into your system and add value there is pretty impressive.
Yeah, you can test it out if you want sometime. Let you get a sneak peek.
I would love to talk to you about that because that I have some extreme strengths in our company. And we sell jobs for very high prices.
Yeah.
The other side of the coin is where I lack, like what you're describing right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be not most people are not naturally good at that stuff. Yeah. It's like a subset of humanity.
Yeah. And most of them are being employed by like the tech industry.
Yeah.
Like Silicon Valley.
Yeah, not many people. Those inherent skill sets don't typically gravitate towards the trades.
Yeah.
Much less residential repaint.
Yeah. That's what's really, I think, so special. Like that's what's so special about what you're doing is you are taking. I mean, this is happening in tons of other industries, right?
Right. Yeah.
It is all the other many other industries.
Right. Yeah. Farming's gone through it. Coffee shops have gone through it. Most industries have gone through it. Not residential repaint yet.
Yeah. All right. Now I need. We did humanize you, but I want to humanize you some more.
Yeah.
I need the biggest, most embarrassing mistake or horror story you got for me.
Okay. I told you my biggest failures that I felt like, which were best friend from college, best friend from high school. I fail with everything I do. Like I tried getting into biking last year, and then I got the wrong type of bike seat, and I was like halfway out, and I had to like stand the whole time because I had sores on my undercarriage, as they call it. I tried getting into swimming, so I wanted to do triathlons last fall, and then they closed the pools down. So then I tried to swim in my lake with a wetsuit, and I made it out a little bit, and I started like having asthmatic attacks, and I had to hold on to my buoy that I had behind me. That was pretty embarrassing. I don't know. I don't know. Those good ones?
Those are good ones.
Okay.
So Slavic spilled paint on someone's carpet, couldn't get it cleaned up, and put a chair over the top of it.
He's a con artist.
I know.
No. A painting story. I mean, all your classic ones. You spill paint on a roof and you freak out. I don't know if I have any. I have an embarrassing one, but I can't talk about it. It's not bad. I just can't talk about it. Yeah, no, not. I would say most embarrassing paint story would be. I remember when I estimated a job and I forgot to put the siding in the bid, and they accepted it, and then I lost money. I still did it. That was embarrassing.
That's
For like 3 years straight. I locked my keys in my car like multiple times every spring because I'd be so deliriously tired. I have to call my wife to like help me, or like I remember like going into a client's house like, yeah, I need to wait for the emergency roadside assistance because I locked my keys in my car. They're like, you can sit on the step. We're not going to choose you. You're too expensive. Fine. We'll just sit here. But yeah, there was like a string of years where I would do that every single year because I was so tired, just hustling, like delirious, like sleep deprived.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for your time here. This has been awesome.
Yeah, man, you're a great interviewer. I feel like we got deep, long form commentary. You broke me down. I got exposed for the fraud I am. Also got into some good topics. Hopefully you can really work this in post-production to make it sound good and look good. So hopefully you've got a team of post-production here. And
it's going to get posted instantly at the end of this, and I'm not going to think about it again.
Nice.
We don't have it.
Okay, shoot. All right, well, just
I don't have no budget.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that so I can sleep better. I'm going to put my kids to bed. I'm going to go to bed. I might try and reply to some of these comments. It sounds like you have a pretty engaged audience here.
They're gonna disappear when I post this. They won't be there.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, should we answer some of them?
Yeah.
Okay. There's so many. I'm going to the top. Humble Bumble joined. That's not a comment. That's a status. Oh, there's so many joined. You have such a large audience. But these are all the people that left when I started rambling.
Yeah, we had a significant.
I gotta use gasoline to get oil off my skin, guys. It's the lighting, okay? Just I don't have that oily tough skin. That's Paint Terminator being brutally honest, and I appreciate that. Quality sells itself. Something about paint. Emojis. Watch it twice. Yes. What's a linchpin? But then it's a laugh emoji, like you don't know, like you do know what it is. A linchpin is like the critical piece that keeps the wheel from falling off. So it's like the critical part of the system. Head trash, emojis. Build the base, perfect the process, develop a successor. Not find a successor, you gotta develop them. Are you okay if I do this, Zach?
I love this.
Okay.
This is the like when the everyone claps to get the band back out on the stage.
Gosh, this is hard. I'm like hunched over trying to get my phone charged. All right, this is how people who don't paint build a big paint company. True, they're not mutually necessary. You don't have to know how to paint to run a big company. You do have to hire people who know how to paint, though. If you have all people who don't know how to paint, then you're gonna be bad. Shoot, I kind of scrolled to the bottom, I think. I'm so sorry, Scott. Or Zach. This is going good. All right. Oh, there's just so many good comments. Just let me do it. All right. I'm just gonna pick up where I am right now.
Yeah.
Here's a ring. I don't know. Mentor me. Yes, finisher. See, somebody does want me to mentor them. Tell that to my kids. Circle of trust. Not everyone can handle accountability. True. Do the best you can. Beautiful Beza. I am an Enneagram 5. How did you know? Very true.
Does that person know you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Beza's like my, I don't know what you call her. She's my good friend. Audiobooks are better. Okay. Duke Nukem. That's a good game.
Have you ever played
Proverbs? Let's go. People like the Proverbs. I'm telling you, if you listen to Proverbs every day, just make it be the first thing you look at.
What is Proverbs?
It's like the wisdom literature of the Old Testament in the Bible. And again, I'd say like you don't have to believe the Bible. It is a historical document. Maybe it was just a bunch of crazy stuff. Who knows? But the Proverbs are something that's kind of stood the test of time of wisdom literature. And it's basically a bunch of truthisms of the general flow of how things go. Now, if you get into the wisdom literature, I'd recommend that you read Ecclesiastes and then Job, because Proverbs will tell you generally how things macro go. It's not a list of promises. Ecclesiastes follows that up by like, nope, doesn't always go that way. And Job is really like, yeah, it really doesn't always go that way. So you kind of have to, I would recommend reading those 3 books in tandem, because you just read the Proverbs, you're like, if I eat an apple a day, the doctor will always be away. And that's not always true. Sorry. 3-hour marathons, it's not in the cards for most. Not in the cards for me. I did it last fall and it was a lot slower than that. Okay. Someone says I'm intelligent and I fooled them. So I appreciate that. It's because you ask great questions, Zach. Discipline, discipline, discipline. Echo chamber. Spend, track, reflect. Good. People are getting the loop down. Job costing. Dealing with humans. Left brain ripping. Oh, see, someone said I come across as a nice guy. Tell that to my boss. No, tell that to I'm running out of jokes. I'm deliriously tired, Zach.
You can tell.
I get up pretty early.
I see your posts. Not at 5, but
Marcus Aurelius Meditations. I did that on an audiobook for a while. Paint school. I'm gonna paint. These people are philosophical.
Yeah, we have some really smart people who watch this show.
People want to watch it again. That's good. PPC is a magazine. APC is probably the other magazine you're thinking of. APC has a magazine that's really good. PC is paying kind of a membership. Used to be 400. I think it still is 400. They haven't raised it. And again, thank you to the paint manufacturers. They all uniformly underwrite it. It's been a dinosaur shop for a long time. True. That's true. It's 150 plus years old. So it's got some of that momentum for sure, which comes with good as well. But we've got some pretty cool guys and gals on the board that are directing stuff. Sign up, like I said, pcapainted.org. Zach, thanks for letting me do this.
This has been amazing, Jason.
People they like to stretch. I'd recommend stretching. Start low, go high. All right, good. That was it. Okay. Oh, lay down. My back hurts so much, Zach. I was hunched over. All right.
Jason, thank you very much.
Thanks, man. This was fun. I had fun. You're a great interviewer. There's a reason why the show's so successful. It's long form commentary. I think you do your Instagram posts in general are a great bullhorn for the industry. So you're hitting a lot of people with really like sexy content that just like spreads like wildfire. But then you do this nice long form, which is more of a dog whistle that like those three of the people that are into this stuff will really latch on, and it might just kind of trajectorize their life. Not a word. I'm tired.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I do this for, this is what I want to consume. This is
Yeah.
the type of content I like.
Yeah. Very good.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right, Zach. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.